When we attempt to trace the deepest roots of human history, we naturally look for a solid boundary. For most of us, that hard line in the sand sits right around the 5,000-year mark. We look at the Great Pyramids of Giza. They have stood as towering achievements for millennia, serving as our standard baseline for true antiquity. In that exact same 5,000-year timeframe, we find the era of Lord Krishna and the legendary city of Dwarka. For generations, historians operated on a firm consensus. This specific window, 5 millennia ago, is when humans organized into massive empires, appointed kings, and began writing down their stories. This timeline visualizes the actual scale of our past. Look at the 5,000-year mark for Krishna's era. If we go another 7,000 years further back, we find the builders of Gobekli Tepe. Today, we are actually closer in time to Krishna than Krishna was to them. That math reveals a massive 7,000-year void sitting entirely outside our oldest recorded myths. Traveling backward across that immense stretch of time requires stripping away everything familiar. There are no nations in this era, no borders, no kings, and no written records of any kind. Finally, 12,000 years in the past, we find the circular stone walls and pillars of Gobekli Tepe. The existence of these carefully quarried, precisely aligned megaliths, sitting in deep prehistory, overturns the established sequence of human social development. 12,000 years ago, the Earth was a violently hostile place, only just beginning to thaw from the deep freeze of the last ice age. As those massive glaciers finally began to melt, global sea levels surged, coastlines were swallowed, entire ecosystems were uprooted, and local weather patterns shifted dramatically from generation to generation. Humans surviving this global thaw were not the dominant force on the planet. Massive migrating predators and untamed wild herds controlled the landscape. Every day was consumed by the physical pursuit of food and secure shelter. Living on a knife edge of survival requires every ounce of human energy. A society forced to constantly migrate and hunt for food typically leaves zero excess time to draft blueprints, map out geometry, or construct massive stone monuments. The people wandering this landscape were strictly hunter-gatherers. They operated without complex agricultural economies, without centralized authorities to issue orders, without a labor force of slaves. Their engineering capabilities were strictly limited to what they could hold in their hands. They possessed no metal, no draft animals, no wheels, and no machinery. Yet, defying accepted archaeological models, these nomadic groups successfully quarried massive limestone blocks weighing up to 20 tons. They dragged them over rough terrain, stood them perfectly upright, and carved intricate wildlife directly into the stone. Executing a project of this magnitude required dozens of scattered tribes to communicate across vast distances. They had to organize a fetid labor force and synchronize energy toward a single, abstract goal. The evidence laid out in these stone rings suggests that the human drive to cooperate and build sacred spaces triggered the transition to settled life, rather than the other way around. Imagine pulling one of those stone dust-covered builders from the freezing mud of Gobekli Tepe and dropping them into the bustling port city of Krishna's Dwarka. To that prehistoric hunter, the organized grid-like streets, the stone palaces, the massive sailing ships, and the forged metal weapons would appear indistinguishable from magic. This period saw the transition from nomadic hunting to the first experiments with agriculture, trade, and the social structures that would later define the Bronze Age. The ingredients for organized civilization gradually emerged and evolved within this 7,000-year gap. The ruins of Gobekli Tepe represent the definitive starting line of our search for shared meaning. The question we face now is exactly how it happened. How did small, scattered bands of survivors navigate a rapidly melting world to eventually become the builders of the world's first recorded empires?